So I've decided to do this little video talking about what Facebook groups are most likely for you to meet people who are relevant to add to your network, because everybody knows not all Facebook groups are created equal. They're just not. They're very different and they have very different purposes, and some groups are really not going to be useful for you to meet people that you can then add to your network. So let's talk about this a little. There are some groups out there that are really just like learning groups for some coach or service provider to kind of funnel in their ideal clients to buy their thing, and don't really have a lot of interaction between the members of the group. Those groups are not the type of groups where you're going to meet people who can help you in your business. And early on in my networking journey, I wasted way too many hours, days. I don't even want to think about how much time I spent on those groups looking at the identical free trainings and the just lack of engagement and all this stuff. And one of the things I realized is that in order for people to really want to get pulled into your world and see more of your content, creating a deeper connection is super helpful, so that they can at least see some of your stuff. And being in those groups didn't really help me at all, because first of all, you're not going to hire all of those business coaches, and secondly, a lot of the stuff is just repetitive. This goes for anything, including there's a lot of spiritual groups that are basically the same way. In any area where you might want to learn something, there's a lot of groups that really don't have any interaction in them. So in terms of creating relationships, which is what you're doing when you're networking, some of those places aren't that good. The other thing to look for in groups is groups that have events. Like, how interactive are their events? Are they just going to be like some lecture with the person in the group giving a big lecture and no interaction? That's probably not going to be super helpful for what you're trying to do, because you don't want to just be another face in some other guru's crowd, because people aren't paying attention to you. They're just paying attention to the person who's created this group. So you don't want to put the time and energy into those groups. You want to start leaving them if you're already in them, unless you think there's some particular thing that they have that you want to learn, which I'll be honest, in 99% of the cases, I realize that's not true, that I'm not that interested, and I'm not going to watch all of their videos, because most of those videos are not that good. And I think it was probably over a year ago I eliminated most of those, but then I just started joining new ones in other areas. And so sometimes it takes a little while before you realize what you're doing, because you have to join so many groups to see what ones are quality. And then the other types of groups that are not super great for networking are the giant meme groups, where you have this giant, I don't know, ridiculous sized group, and they're just sharing memes or something very surface level, and they're massive. those don't tend to really be good networking opportunities because you don't really get to know the people in the group that well, especially if all of the comments are super generic or there like aren't any comments. You don't really get to know people at a deeper level in there, so they don't really tend to be that great places for you to grow your network. So those are just like a couple kinds of the groups on Facebook that are not super helpful. So like eliminating a lot of those, and certainly not putting the time into those groups will save you like tons of time in the long run. Now let's talk about the groups that will actually help you. Groups where there is back and forth dialogue with people in the group is super helpful, especially if it's more than just you and the admin. If there's conversations that are like ongoing in there, even if primarily the admin is posting, those groups can be good because if there's like dialogue and conversation, then the people engaging on your comments and on your post are people that you might want to add to your friends list, so those are good groups to meet people. And the other type of groups that people join are like the top of funnel groups that have a lot of the types of content in them that catches people's attention, so they might want to go to your group. But, you know, make sure that it's a group where you can be putting in relevant posts or content. And also, some of those groups, there may not be that much back and forth dialogue, so don't rely on those groups to create deeper connections with people. Sometimes it's just a place to bring in a bigger audience so people can see more of what you do. I'm going to end this video and have a great rest of your day, and don't stop networking.